Before we go any further, make sure you are subscribed to Atten Recounts, because this channel exists for people who do not want recycled trivia or surface-level history. What we do here is reconstruct how people actually survived. Today's topic is not theoretical, trendy, or speculative. During the Second World War, entire families, cities, and even nations survived because of what they planted, when they planted it, and how they stored it. If you are serious about history, self-reliance, or understanding how civilians endured total war, this matters. January planting decisions, especially in temperate climates, determined whether households ate through winter or starved quietly behind blackout curtains. Stay with me, because what follows is practical, documented, and immediately applicable. Why January planting mattered during the war more than most people realize. In WWII, January was not a dead month for agriculture. It was a planning and preparation phase that separated households who survived from those who relied on ration queues. Victory gardens were not hobbies, they were survival infrastructure. Crops chosen in January were selected for calorie density, storage life, seed-saving potential, and minimal inputs. Fertilizer was scarce, fuel was rationed, and labor was often elderly, female, or adolescent. The crops you will hear today fed families for a full year because they could be planted early, harvested efficiently, and preserved without refrigeration. Potatoes were the backbone of civilian survival across Europe. Potatoes were planted in prepared beds or trenches as soon as ground could be worked. A single row could produce enough calories to sustain a family for weeks. Wartime households planted seed potatoes saved from the previous harvest, often cutting them to stretch supply. Stored in root cellars or buried clamps, potatoes lasted through winter. A family applying this today would dedicate at least 1/3 of their garden space to potatoes alone, staggering varieties for early and late harvest. Cabbage sustained urban families long after bombs stopped falling. Cabbage was planted early because it tolerated cold and produced dense, storable heads. Sauerkraut production exploded during WWII because fermentation preserved vitamins when fresh produce disappeared. A practical application today is planting winter cabbage in January seed trays, transplanting early, and dedicating a barrel or food-grade container to fermentation for year-round nutrition. Carrots provided hidden calories and long-term storage. They were valued because they stored exceptionally well in sand or soil pits. Wartime families, planted dense rows to maximize yield per square meter. Applying this knowledge means planting carrots thickly, thinning for early eating, and storing mature roots layered in damp sand for winter consumption. Turnips and Swedes filled plates when bread ran out. Turnips and Swedes were planted because they matured quickly and thrived in poor soil. These crops were boiled, mashed, and added to stews to stretch meat rations. Today, planting them in January allows early harvests and repeated sowing, ensuring a steady calorie supply even in marginal land. Beans replaced meat protein when livestock vanished. Dried beans were critical wartime protein. January planting plans included allocating space for climbing and bush beans intended solely for drying. Families save seed religiously. A modern application is allowing a full bean crop to mature fully on the vine, drying it naturally and storing it in sealed containers for year-round use. Peas supported early-season nutrition before other crops matured. Peas were planted early because they fix nitrogen and produce food quickly. Wartime gardeners used peas to bridge the hunger gap before heavier crops matured. Today, planting peas early improves soil health while providing early calories and protein. Onions anchored wartime cooking and preservation. Onions were planted in January seed beds because they required a long growing season. They stored exceptionally well when cured properly. Families relied on onions to flavour otherwise bland meals. Practically, onions should be cured in dry air and stored braided or in mesh for months. Beets doubled as food and sugar replacement. Beets provided roots and edible greens. Sugar beet varieties were especially important when sugar imports collapsed. Modern growers can apply this by planting dual-purpose beets, harvesting greens early, and storing roots long-term. Wheat and barley were planted wherever land allowed. Small grain plots appeared even in backyards during the war. Grain was hand-threshed and ground locally. Today, even small wheat patches can supplement calories and provide seed security. Kale survived where bombs and frost destroyed everything else. Kale's frost resistance made it invaluable. Families harvested it continuously through winter. Planting kale early ensures a resilient green supply with minimal care. Parsnips sweetened after frost and stored underground. Parsnips were planted early and left in the ground, becoming sweeter after frost. They were dug as needed, acting as living storage. Well, during the desperate months, pumpkins and squash actually replaced bread for many families. Winter squash, in particular, offered massive calorie yields and could be stored for months without any refrigeration. So, applying this today means planting storage varieties and, curing them properly to last through the winter. Maize, really did supplement grain shortages. Corn was grown for meal, not for eating fresh. Families dried it and ground it themselves. Even small plantings today can provide, a surprising amount of calories. Leeks endured the cold and gave families extended harvest windows. Leeks actually stayed in the ground all through winter, only harvested when needed. This reduced storage requirements quite a bit. Herbs like thyme and sage, they preserved both food and morale. Herbs weren't luxury items, not at all. They helped preserve meat and made those monotonous meals just a bit more tolerable. Even small herb plots made an outsized difference. Understanding these crops isn't just nostalgia. It's operational knowledge drawn from civilian survival under extreme pressure. If you found value here, do subscribe to Atten Recounts, share this with someone who takes history seriously, and help keep this channel alive for folks who want depth, not noise.